case Jamalum. Pamodula case was a classic one. It was a very difficult one. It was a tough one because a short
Pamuli
notice
one.
less sort of, very short notice.
With Pamul.
Pamudu Boyan,
Okay.
Pamudu Laki, Pamudu Boyan, member Kenny, that was a short notice in all sort of but we were able to fight it na overturn. Suleiman single Nyasila case for a similar one. Often I had a window of almost like Namira. I had a window of like a week or so. And then Ikofo Suleiman single Nyasi Murundi. You know what I mean? And I remember Wawato Kabiru Wokera because utterly Nteni Suleiman from a problem of Dundantem. And then we were not in talking terms. So Kabiringa Kibaro Moy, because it happened so motem border, I'm not part of it. You know what I mean? But I remember then lawyer Darboe and Kumandanam from I don't know where he was, maybe America or Gambia. Ako ani Suleiman Farmer single benu nyami. Single ya batami beka. And then single dingo wait case sort of Angleterre. What more problem mo be Gambia with ya jamela mon thanko. What problem mo taraje atundi la fang single dingo problem also do. Ntebije and I and Dolman Lowe ngo fasa. You see what I mean? He said that will be a big disappointment for him. And then he said he complained and everything. I said, you know what? Not a problem. We will deal with it. I remember. I don't know what date it was. Maybe it was a Sunday, but I had to leave my house and then go to work that very Sunday because the deadline was very short, and I had to go and then start working on the case. Suleiman Mandia Nyangonyang, I had to call him. Then he was in a detention center. I called him and I told him, what is the story? And then he told me the whole story, and then I pick on the case. I start fighting. That Monday, started filing some of the papers. I had to send letter of representation to the Home Office to notify them that I'm now the lawyer acting for Suleiman, and then all correspondence should now be forwarded to me, and I had to deal with it. That Kabul Blado. We do that a case for I think it was Newport in Wales, I believe, and then we fought, and we were able to overturn the removal on Ngambe. I was able to stop it, and then we move forward. So I've done that. In fact, what is sort of the what is sort of the Sago political activists in UK. Ni wo case mama de gava ata Yanks da way ata lawyer do bije nga lawyer do lonje do le tata je amari abella moy kanne hopefully amari ba jela la sincere an wala ko atel nan akonye ko ndada lawyer career la ko akonye Yanks da wala ka ke du nyin case fa ta way atel be ma ko non you know what time I did some very difficult cases. Tell you the truth, very difficult cases. Because I remember former immigration director Mimbenunjang, ala case do be adimol na the UK. What didn't know la case? Labon for Home Office formula after a case, evidence manufacture for my own clients. He will turn to try to accuse me of manufacturing evidence for them. I remember that case as well. So there are so many tough ones that I had. Nga soldier will represent la mini alon ko ye accused coup d'etat la ye dol bute dol came. But every one of them, every one of the cases I was doing because I represented a captain. Ni alon ka Bodananja. In fact two captains also. Many ale Bodanan then the Jamme days. It was very difficult for them. But Ikalunko, their hope was me, and I had to fight. So sometimes I had to work really hard because coming near court case sort of for me, I don't even sleep. Nkaminge, I would read my case and I would be doing my research, start case law because UK is all about case law. Niman case law long. In yalung nkamin for mole. Abolu kukilimbeje sembe kuwe tawdo bar londe ko. Womila fengol. They can ni me prepare come na they get a findine blal de man expect kandam and they will bring all kind of evidence. So I make so nimba like court case though it's like kata examination on the sam akamunda ni kata exam on the sam eka suto be prepare and then you go in And then, but I had difficult cases. But Suleiman's case was very difficult because the time period. And then I also there is a guy called London Nyasi. I dealt with that case in Norway. Can you imagine? I'm in UK, London is in Norway, and I had to deal with the case in Norway. And then you London fen and the phone Belgium. Ikoiba deport to Gambia. Ya fen and Belgium. We were able to stop London removal in Belgium. Yeah, moved from Norway to Belgium, and I was dealing with the lawyer. There was a lawyer in Norway, very good lawyer. I forgot. I think her name is Cecilia. In fact, Amnesty International will learn bole. But Cecilia, you see, Norway, it all la case law among developed coming UK la case law in immigration. So I had to help her on some of the case law because it all been argue in UK in the case law, and then the judges la find it. I had to send her that, and then I remember that was very difficult. Nene Jobate, Ndey Jobate na benyin lamoy ka ba fule aben serial because Ndey Jobate were calling me about that case. It was, and then the time difference with Norway was also another because I remember Ben Kuman Lawato Mina way at a suitabalam, Yafonye. The next day I had to be with the lawyer, Amnesty International London, Amnesty International Oslo, and then we were coordinating, but we fought the case. I had to do the arguments and send it to this lawyer in Norway. She would look at it and she would tell me, this is brilliant. I think I still have some of our email exchanges with her. And then we fought that case, but we were able to stop landing while the flight was on the route to bring him to Gambia. In fact, so we stopped the flight in Belgium. Ya bondinang Oslo, ya fenam for Belgium, Brussels, SN Brussels, Purka fenam Banjul, and we stopped it in Brussels, and then he was returned back to Norway. That one was very difficult because the laws are different, but it's all then UK benung EU le. We were part of the EU, so we can argue the European case law.
Yeah,
that's what I mean.
That was incredible.
And we were dealing with what we call ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights. So Article 3 prohibits torture, persecution, and then inhumane treatment and servitude and slavery. So we were arguing on those points. And I remember there was a case law. This case law related to a Cameroonian case. And I had to rely on that case from the Court of Appeal. And then bring that case and send it to this woman, arguing it for her. Cecilia, I believe, that is the name of the lawyer. And we were able to stop the flights in Belgium. Can you imagine? In Norway. Yeah, and I was talking to Landing even while he was in Norway, in Belgium, in Brussels. This is Landing Nyasi, you know what I mean? In the latter part, because political I don't think at the moment we are even friends on Facebook, but this is a case I fought for him. You know what I mean? I fought for him when he was in Norway. They took him to detention center, and I started fighting with the first lawyer. I understand that lawyer doesn't understand much, and I had to tell him we have to change the lawyer because this guy doesn't know what he's doing. So we had to change the lawyer, and thanks to Amnesty International in London, who were literally my partners, because we do more Amnesty in London, near cases also which are very difficult, and it is Gambian case, they will refer it to me, and I will deal with it. And also, I was more or less the lawyer for the Senegalese embassy in London as well. So I was dealing with most of the Senegalese cases as well for Senegal. And then from there, I dealt with a lot of Libyan cases because Libyans were bringing a lot of cases. They used to call me Mr. Yankees. Mr. Yankees. So I did a lot of tough cases, but London's case, I would say, was even tougher than Suleiman's case, because Suleiman's case, it was in UK. But London's case is Norway. It's a different jurisdiction, different legal provisions we were dealing with. La loi in Angleterre, la loi but it's common. Asylum law is common. It's universal because it's a Geneva Convention. Everybody is the same thing. If the person has a well-founded fear of persecution as a result of his membership of a social group, then you can argue. So I had to argue that case for him
Wow.
together with that lawyer, and we were able to convince the judges in Norway to stop the flight from Brussels to Banjul. Oh, but
That,
you know, I that one I can still remember when I disclosed that news to him, because when the woman told me the judges have agreed now, they're going to call the immigration, they're going to stop the flight. I was so emotional, very
that was
emotional,
that was an exciting moment for you.
because landing was part of our NTCG, and this NTCG group only 30 days ninu ya jamela sidia bayola group woni. So London was one of the ministers. So then London Murundana Gambia or Taimo, you can only imagine what would happen there. I couldn't because Mirano. So I had to fight left, right, and center for him. And I'm glad that he is settled in Norway now. He's got his family and a whole lot of things are happening for him. So that's my job.